Good afternoon, everybody. We're back here a month later, and we've been doing these updates in terms of the media advisory in January and then in March and April. And so we just wanted to provide an opportunity to give a bit of context to where we are in the discussions with the Kate's Group in terms of the downtown arena and entertainment district. You have the copy of the various reports that are going to Council on April 6. There'll be two parts to the day on April 6. One is the reports that you have in front of you, and secondly, we will be giving Council an update on the status of the negotiations at this point in time. And I'm not going to go into much detail about the negotiations because that is what's going to happen in the discussions on April 6. But what I will say is that we continue to meet on a regular basis with the group. Obviously, as the Kate's Group and as the city, we have various perspectives on what's the best way to move forward, and we continue to have discussions about what does that look like and what makes the most sense. From the city's point of view, obviously, ultimately, it's for council to assess what that agreement looks like and how does it ultimately come together if council chooses to pursue an arena project. In terms of the reports that are in front of you today, there are 5. The first one is actually talks about one of the elements of the project, which is the CRL. And as you know, in previous reports, we've talked about a community revitalization levy generating $160 million in development dollars to be used as a method or a partial method of funding the arena. And obviously the question to date is, so what does that boundary look like? What is the area that we're considering in terms of an uplift opportunity? And as you know in the report, the area that we're talking about historically hasn't generated significant tax dollars. The second piece about that is obviously questions are being raised, well, will a CRL be successful over the 20-year period? And I think, from certainly work our economists have done, the future in Alberta, certainly in the North American context, is pretty positive, and the outlook is pretty good. Having said that, and we can get into more details, we've certainly tried to be reasonably conservative in our estimations around the value that would come from the CRL. The second report provides further update to council around governance questions. If you go ahead with a project, how do you manage it? Is there internal oversight? Do you have a third-party manager? Or do we use sort of a foundation or separate body board that we've talked about previously? The third report was a request of council around, so what would be the impact in terms of the downtown of an arena and an arena district? And we tried to provide further updates to council around that in terms of the impact that would have on the downtown. The report generally sort of suggests that putting an arena in the core with associated retail and commercial development adjacent to the LRT and the existing facilities in the downtown is a positive opportunity. The fourth report is the community benefits piece. So obviously, when you're looking at new development or redevelopment in an area, there are existing residents, there's the existing neighborhood, and how do you integrate that becomes an important part of the process. And certainly there are examples of where community benefits agreements have been used in major facility development to manage that transition. And the fifth report touches on the seat condominium concept, which has been raised, could this be one of the models that is used to fund an arena? And we provide some commentary around where it's being used, where it hasn't been used, how it's being used in the North American context. And certainly I think council will want to see that report as they think about the overarching funding model. But generally, that model, because of the way it's structured, gets into the capital side and the operating side of an arena model, and so it's not actually generating any real new money. It's just where does that money shared? Or who gets that money over the life of the project? As mentioned, we're really on a journey here. This is not a simple project. It's a complex project. It's not just around arena. It's around an entertainment district. Where we've seen some sort of steps forwards in terms of the discussion, I would say yes, absolutely. The zoning is on the land, but there are constraints on the zoning that relate back to the development. We've continued to have ongoing discussions with the Cates Group around the financing and how that should be developed. And as I've said before, that will then be shared with Council on April 6th. And on that point, sort of open it up for questions.